3, 2, 1, go. I'm here with Mr. Clive Gosling. Clive, finally, sit down.
Yep, this is a quick sit down. I think we've been talking about doing a podcast for years, and I think we decided that if we're going to do it, we need to do it properly. I need to be in LA with grot bags.
Yes.
We need to dig through all the dirty past.
Yes.
And all the stories that we can tell. So today, I think is just like a quick. You're in the UK. Let's have a catch up and a chat.
All right, cool. All right, well, let's start it off. I've known you for literally 40 years, probably.
Yeah.
We kind of started at the same time. We kind of did everything together. You was a couple of years older than me, but same races, same everything, really.
Yeah.
And so a lot of great stories to share. When did you start BMX? How did you find it?
I started BMX in 1980 on July the 21st, which was my 11th birthday, and my family had a bike shop. A lot of people know about Edwards because they had BMX teams for many years. So that was my family's bike shop. That was started by my great-grandfather in 1908. So bikes and bike shops have been in the family for forever. And it was my birthday, and my mum took me to the bike shop, and my mum worked in the business as well. And my BMX had just come out, and they mainly had like Team Murrays in the shop. And my mum said to my granddad, it's Clive's birthday, he wants a bike. And my granddad said, he can have any bike in the shop if it's his birthday. And my mum said, he actually wants one of those new BMXs. And my granddad said, well, if he wants one of those toys, you're going to have to pay for it. So I think that's the perception of BMX in the early days when it came out.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that it was, maybe something that wasn't going to last. And actually one of my, I think one of my regrets and one of my mum's regrets was that my granddad died before he saw BMX become a proper sport.
Right.
And also, me become all right at doing a proper sport.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's when I got my first bike.
Can you remember finding the track for the first time?
Riding the track, yeah, I can. I mean, like I said, how long have you got? My first bike was a blue and yellow Team Murray. I think it was a 340, the Leicester mags, the pedal back brake, the box bars. My first kit was from Halfords because that's all you could really get.
I think we all had that. Yeah.
When Halfords got a helmet and stuff, and man, I went through 3 or 4 of those frames. They used to split the bottom bracket. The bottom bracket shells had a seam, so they used to split the bottom brackets. Used to break the back ends. I can't remember how many of those. I think I had 3 or 4 of those, because they just used to keep breaking. But we, like a few of my friends had them as well, and we, back then before the internet, magazines or anything, you used to like find out, in the playground, like where you would go.
Yeah.
And there was like, everybody with BMXs goes down
the jumps.
The back of East Croydon train station. There's a derelict car park, and some kids put a plank of wood up against a milk crate.
Right.
So I remember like riding over there in my Parker coat with my mate, and he actually had a Team Murray 310, which was like orange and black.
Mm-hmm.
And every time we used to go to the woods, the wasps wouldn't leave him alone. and we went down there and we saw these kids jumping. But the area that I lived in, so that was near Croydon, where I grew up when I was a kid, and that area actually was a real hot spot for a lot of BMX megastars. So literally where we lived and where we rode, so the areas where we rode, like Fox's Wood, Betts Park, places like that, you had people like Trevor Chapman, you had Chris Young, Andy Young, Gary Llewellyn, Wayne Llewellyn, Warren Godfrey, Stephen Godfrey.
Yeah.
You basically had this real hotbed of like southeast London kind of guys, and also like because Chris Young used to live so close and he used to have the ramp in the garden, he used to go around there and just, any time you go around there, and there would be like some BMX superstars that were.
They were all factory already. Them guys, weren't they?
Yeah, they were all factory. We were just the little Grom hanger-ons that used to go around and like watch them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was it. That was where it all started.
Can you remember your first race?
Yeah, my first race was at Buckmore Park. So you remember the Wiltshires, like Dean Wiltshire?
Eddie?
Yeah, so basically there's a guy called David Wiltshire. He was like the rep for Amoco.
Right.
So he used to come round the shop selling my uncle, or my granddad at the time, Mongoose BMXs. And he said to my mum, he said, they race BMXs down at Buckmore Park. So my mum took me down there, and I think like my helmet wasn't even like good enough, so they like lent me a helmet to do my first race, and I guess that was probably 1981 at Buckmore.
Yeah. Can you remember who you raced with, or?
Oh no, I remember Colin Sharp from OT Cycles was doing the start gate. I don't think they used to have the little skate park there as well at Butman Park. I think they sort of just gone from a literally like a rubber band start gate to
a gate.
One man kind of 12-inch high start gate. But if you see, like, I saw a picture this week on, I think Keith Wilson put a picture up from Butmore, where you sort of came around the first turn, you had that little double and then the drop.
Yeah.
So it was like when it was that original configuration of the Butmore track.
There's some really early pictures of Ruffle there as well, I think. Butmore,
That's the kind of era. In fact, I got a picture.
You got some great pictures here.
Yeah, that's a picture, but that's actually when Butmore had been revamped a little bit.
Right.
Yeah, but the original Butmore was super small, super tight.
I went once, I think, the National 83, when it was rainy. I was a novice, That's the only time I ever went. But I'd obviously seen it a lot in the magazines already by then, So.
Butmore, it was awesome.
Okay, so how did you progress? Obviously you started doing nationals pretty quick, right? By 83, you were doing nationals, right?
So we did what kids did. Mm-hmm. Like I said, I kept breaking the bikes. Mum sort of recognised pretty quick that I needed a better bike. So I got a blue Diamondback. It was a blue Diamondback Senior Pro. I can tell you pretty much every nut and bolt on every bike I ever had.
Right.
It's really like ingrained in my in my memory. I can't remember much else from back then. But I had a blue Diamondback, and it had like blue Diamondback bar stem, seat post crank, had everything on it. But I didn't go to nationals. At that point, we were still sort of doing like club races and regionals.
Yeah.
The first time I did a national, I was on a red line, and it was probably like 83, like Muddy Outwell, like those sort of races.
Yes, yeah.
They're the first ones I can actually remember.
Yeah.
I can't tell you my first national because I can't remember.
Right. You're on the same as me, then we're about the same, doing next 83.
What was your UKBMX?
3075.
Okay, so there you go. Everybody now, if you want to get Dale's card, you've got his PIN number.
I think it has been something at some point.
Oh, yeah, totally. So I was 2471, so I was
a little bit
earlier, but we were all kind of the same time.
Yeah.
And I think it was a great era because we as we were talking about earlier, we were, when I say we were, like me, you, and others, we were maybe the sort of like next generation
after the 80s.
Yeah.
Boom
So you
guys,
basically had those early 80s pioneers.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you remember, but in 88, we had that big picture in B-Cross magazine.
Yeah.
And it basically said...
The next era.
It was like me, you...
Tom, Darren O'Neill,
Rob Stobart.
Yeah.
And it
Keith Bryceland.
And it basically said, this is sort of like the next...
era
or generation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great picture. I
just
wish my seat post weren't so high.
But I think, if I think about like national rankings, if I think about... Actually, I could probably figure out like nationals. I remember when I got my first ever national points. I remember you used to get points if you made a semi-final, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and I thought that was great because if you didn't make a semi at a national, you didn't get a ranking. Mm-hmm. And I think you really felt like you earned it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I remember Paul National, probably 84. I made the semi. I think I came last in the semi, or maybe 7th, but I got like 1 or 2 national points.
Enough to get a number.
Yeah, so the following year I had like a national ranking, and that was a really big deal for me. And I think my national rankings went like 27, 24, 22, 17, 14, 7, 4, 1, something like that.
Yeah,
so like you just 8, if you stick around something long enough, you'll eventually be good at it.
Yeah, well, I think we were all, like I say, we're all on the same thing. It took a while for us all to work it out, but like I say, when that bubble burst and a few of those early factory guys kind of disappeared, we were all ready to step into that next era. And I'm kind of jumping the gun a bit here, but I think me, you, and Tom was probably the first national team outing, right? When we went to
Perpignan.
That was the first time first time I flew to a race. Everything was paid.
Yeah.
But we'll go back to that. Let's go back a few more years first. So obviously you're in the age group of doom, as we say. Paul calls it. Darren Wood, Lee Alexander, Stu Diggins. I mean, the list goes on of riders and stuff. So it was probably pretty tough for you for those first few years, right?
Yeah, especially being from sort of London area, because that was also a real hotbed for those riders.
Yeah.
So I think you could go to a regional, and if you made the main at a regional, it was almost like a national.
Yeah.
I mean, because there literally was so much sort of talent in that age group, and it was a really tough age group.
Yeah.
However, I think it makes you realise why you ride.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really. I'm actually not a very competitive person,
Mm-hmm.
and I actually didn't ride and race BMX because I wanted to win races or make a living out of it, like you and like some other people. I did it because I just really loved doing it,
Yeah.
and it's basically what I did with my friends.
Mm-hmm.
So even late 80s when BMX fell off a cliff and it was absolute, the races were awful, the tracks were awful, everything was awful, we still went racing.
Mm-hmm.
But we were starting to, get to the track, race. But really, the fun started when the race finished because we were on the track for a couple of hours jumping, and then we'd go out and we'd, go to a nightclub and we'd, have fun. So
Yeah.
for me, BMX has always really been about the social element and the friendship element. I'm not a very competitive person, and I never really took it that seriously, and I never really trained. And actually, that's why I think I was never actually that good. And the reason I say that is because most of the podcasts that you do and you have done have been with people that have generally been sort of BMX superstars or really successful at BMX. I absolutely don't classify
But I think
myself.
Well, you definitely
I
was,
don't
Clive.
classify
Yeah.
myself.
Yeah.
Listen, I got number one when everybody else had gone to superclass.
But you were still progressed as a rider. You was doing stuff that we weren't doing, and even the guys older, the pros, you were picking up for stuff, and you was technically very good.
Oh, I did. Listen, I was good at some stuff. I could speed jump a brick wall.
Yeah, yeah.
But I definitely think that because I didn't, especially like you and Tom, you guys wanted to be professional BMXers.
Mm-hmm.
You wanted to make a living out of it.
Mm-hmm.
I never had that. So therefore, I never trained that hard. I remember when, late 80s. Well, actually, probably the sort of golden time for me was, I started hanging out with like Will Smith and the Jive guys.
Yeah.
And in 88 we went to California for about a month.
Yeah, one of the first guys.
We stayed
in our era at least.
We actually stayed with Gork and the guys at Wizard Publications, so BMX Action Magazine. We stayed in their house. We would go and do photo shoots with Mad Dog and Spike Jones, and honestly, it was.
You got some good coverage as well, didn't you? Yeah.
Oh, I think I've got a picture in the background of a bike test.
I've seen you in quite a few BMX actions, though. Yeah.
Yeah, but that time, it was just incredible. It was awesome, and it made me want to go back. And literally, when I came back to the UK, I was like, "Wow, BMX in America is where it's at. Like, I'm not staying here." And late 88, I literally just jumped on a plane and went over to NorCal and bummed around on a few sofas and then ended up in Texas with the guys at SNS Racing for a couple of years.
Yeah.
So I was out there. So I was probably one of the earlier riders to go out there and kind of live out there. But again, I didn't go out there like you guys went out there to make a living and progress your careers. Mm-hmm. I went out there for the fun and the adventure of riding and meeting people.
Yeah. No, and I remember when you came back, you definitely progressed as well. So I think that's when you kind of went into your own then, really.
I had to.
Yeah.
Went out to NorCal and was riding with Cecil Johns. You ever try keeping up with Cecil
Johns?
Right, riding up a mountain?
All them guys, all the boss guys and stuff.
They were, that's a whole different podcast story. That was some nuts times. But we were, I actually I'm very thankful to be really lucky to be in the right place at the right time, to have experienced loads of really cool stuff. So like on those, when I was staying in Texas with Michelle and Ryan, the SNS crew, they would have people come out and stay with them. When the Texas National was on, Charles Townsend and Todd Corbett would come out 2 weeks before, and we would all be like hanging out and training together and everything else. So I'm just really lucky to be able to meet lots of really cool people under the right environment and circumstances to, have lifelong memories and to be able to tell cool stories. So,
Clive, you've always been factory, currently still are. Tell us about some of those earlier teams and like say the first 10 years of racing. Obviously Edwards was your probably first sponsor.
Yeah, I think again lucky to be lucky for the family to have a bike shop. Mm-hmm. I really took it for granted back then. We all owe such a big debt to our parents for supporting us and taking us to the races and buying us all those cool bikes. Obviously, from which my mum did. Luckily, we had a bike shop, so it was a little bit easier for us because we, got everything, cheap and everything else. But we wouldn't have been able to do it. But I think my blue Diamondback, looking back at it, it was like it was just like blue. Everything was blue. And I remember I completely ruined it at Buckmore when I was absolutely desperate for a pair of Amy Finney grips when they came out.
Right.
It was like about 20 pieces.
Yeah.
And I went over to Jane Windle, a hot shot, and she had one pair left and they were red and yellow. And I was like, I don't care, I'll take them.
Right.
And I had this all blue bike and I put these red and yellow grips on. I stood back and looked at the bike and I was like, oh, well, that's ruined that bike. So then I put some like yellow tyres or something on it. But I think my first really nice bike. So after that, I had a Redline MX2 with like graphite Z rims, and that was a really cool bike. But I think my first really factory bike, the one that I really loved, I had a red GHP in '84.
That was it. Yes.
Man, that bike, I found
Horror
a picture.
pants. Do you have horror pants?
I had horror pants.
Yeah,
But that bike, I found a picture of it the other day.
Yeah.
That bike had star bars, ESP stems, sunlight halves.
Full face helmet, right?
Yeah, full face bell helmet,
yeah.
BBMX3. But the bike had like hutch pedals, 401 flight cranks, chrome 7L rims. It had everything on it. If that bike was around today, it would be a collector's wet dream and worth about 5,000, about $5,000. So I think again, lucky to have the bike shop, but also I think I just had quite a good eye at putting together quite a nice bike, and then just used to have some other dads kind of come and ask my advice, what should I put on, and then a few more dads coming over saying, hey, if I pay you, can you put my kid's bike together? So I just liked tinkering with bikes. In fact, there's a cool story there, because on the red GHP I had to learn how to fix stuff because my mum put the bottom bracket in on that bike and ended up putting a hole in the frame. So I was like, I tell you what, Mum, you're really good on the tools, but you step back, I'm going to take it from here. And since then I've been sort of really focused on making my bikes mint. So after the GHP, you're into 80, what's that, 80, that was 85. So then you're in 86 with the 09. I think one of the best brands,
still.
the look and the feel.
Yeah, it still looks great.
Yeah.
Early pictures.
Yeah. So I went to the bike show, probably Earls Court or Olympia, 85, and Hot Wheels just brought the first 09 frame in.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously Graham Merry was there, and I was like, oh, Graham, I love it. And he's like, well, look, I've got one jersey, one bag, one pair of pants, one frame, it's all your size, it'll all fit you. So I was like, yeah, I'll have it. So back then sponsorship, if you were lucky, was like a bit of a deal on you got a deal on a bike or whatever. So in fact, but because of the Edwards team, I took it for granted, like I said earlier, that that I used to get a lot of stuff that I probably didn't appreciate.
Yeah.
And everybody in the Edwards team, like initially we just had like red T-shirts with Team Edwards. And I had a Robinson. What am I talking about? 83. I had a really sweet Robinson. So I used to I had the Robinson with all the Robinson kit, and then I had to wear the red Edwards T-shirt over the top of the really factory Robinson kit.
Right.
But yeah, the Edwards team was amazing because it apart from me, who was spoilt rotten back then, it was a lot of really underprivileged kids from Southeast London that probably couldn't afford to get
amazing
to
riders at the road for Edwards.
Oh, my uncle had this big old red van, and he used to pull up outside Edwards on a Sunday morning, open the back doors, and whoever was there got in the van, and we went racing to Milton Keynes, Hounslow, Hillingdon, wherever.
Yeah.
So the shop gave a lot of people a good opportunity to ride. People like Gary Llewellyn, Charlie Reynolds, early Edwards riders, Karen Murphy, Dean Idios, some real sort of superstar riders started out on Edwards.
All went on to great things, even Joan Edwards.
Yeah.
So after 09 Robinson, right? Or was there anything between that?
No, I rode for I say rode for. So in 86 at the Worlds,
talk a little bit about 86. You just did really good at the Euros, right? You got 4th.
Yeah, I think 86 was a bit of a turning point.
Yeah, no, definitely, yeah.
Yeah, because I think I was sort of like, in 86, I was probably like you know, able to make most national finals, and that was a pretty stacked age category. And then something just clicked at the Euros in Germany, and I was just riding